Fire strobes are generally not required in break rooms. Fire alarm system requirements are dictated by building codes and local regulations, which typically focus on areas with high occupancy, sleeping areas, or spaces where hearing impairment may be a concern. A break room, while used by employees, doesn't usually fall under these specific categories unless it serves a dual purpose, such as an employee sleeping area or a large gathering space. Building codes like this, based on the International Building Code or the National Fire Protection Association standards, outline where visual notification devices like strobes are mandatory. These typically include hallways, restrooms, and other common areas, especially in buildings serving the public or with overnight accommodations. The absence of a fire strobe requirement in a break room does not negate the need for other fire safety measures. Smoke detectors are essential and should be installed in accordance with local codes. Audible alarms are also crucial to ensure everyone in the break room can be alerted in case of a fire. Proper signage indicating fire exits and emergency procedures is also important. Regular fire drills should be conducted to familiarize employees with evacuation plans. The specifics of fire safety requirements can vary depending on the size of the break room, its location within the building, and the overall building occupancy. Consulting with a qualified fire safety professional or local building code official is recommended to ensure full compliance with all applicable regulations. The decision to install a fire strobe in a break room, even if not strictly required, may be considered as an added safety measure, particularly if there are employees with hearing impairments who regularly use the space. However, it is crucial to ensure that any such installation complies with the relevant codes and standards for strobe light intensity and placement to avoid causing disorientation or other safety issues. Emergency lighting should be present in the break room to provide illumination during a power outage. Fire extinguishers should be readily accessible and employees should be trained on their proper use. Consider a multi-sensory approach to fire safety by using both audible and visual alerts. Review the latest adopted codes and amendments for your specific location, because fire safety regulations can evolve. Always prioritize the safety of occupants and adhere to the guidelines set forth by authoritative bodies in fire protection. Building owners and managers are responsible for ensuring their buildings meet all fire safety standards, including the proper installation and maintenance of fire alarm systems. Remember that this information is a general overview and specific requirements depend on the local jurisdiction and the specifics of the building's design and use. It is always best to consult with local authorities to confirm. Ensure regular inspections of all fire safety equipment, including smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, and emergency lighting. A well-maintained fire safety system is essential for protecting lives and property. Document all fire safety procedures and training sessions to demonstrate due diligence. Consider performing a fire risk assessment to identify potential hazards and vulnerabilities in the break room and implement appropriate preventative measures. Remember that fire safety is an ongoing process that requires continuous attention and improvement. Invest in employee training programs to educate staff on fire safety procedures and the proper use of fire safety equipment. Encourage employees to report any potential fire hazards or safety concerns immediately. Develop a comprehensive fire safety plan that includes evacuation routes, assembly points, and procedures for assisting individuals with disabilities. Ensure that the fire alarm system is regularly tested and maintained by qualified professionals. Keep records of all inspections, testing, and maintenance activities. Familiarize yourself with the different types of fire alarms and their specific functions. Consider installing a fire sprinkler system in the break room to suppress fires quickly and effectively. Coordinate with local fire departments to ensure they have access to building plans and emergency contact information. Conduct regular fire drills to evaluate the effectiveness of the fire safety plan and make necessary adjustments. Implement a system for tracking and managing fire safety equipment such as fire extinguishers and smoke detectors. Review and update the fire safety plan periodically to reflect changes in building occupancy, layout, or operations. Consider the use of fire-resistant materials in the break room, such as furniture and wall coverings. Install signage that clearly indicates the location of fire exits, fire extinguishers, and other fire safety equipment. Ensure that all fire safety equipment is readily accessible and free from obstructions. Educate employees on the importance of fire prevention and encourage them to practice safe habits, such as properly disposing of cigarettes and avoiding the use of open flames. Establish a system for reporting and investigating fire incidents. Use the information gathered from incident investigations to improve fire safety procedures and prevent future incidents. Consider the use of a fire suppression system in a break room to automatically extinguish fires in the event of an emergency. Maintain a well-organized and clutter-free environment in the break room to reduce the risk of fire. Develop a system for managing combustible materials in the break room, such as paper and cardboard. Implement a policy that prohibits smoking in the break room or designates a specific smoking area away from combustible materials. Provide employees with access to fire safety training materials and resources. Encourage employees to participate in fire safety training programs. Consider the use of a fire-resistant trash can in the break room to prevent fires from spreading. Ensure that all electrical equipment in the break room is properly grounded and maintained. Inspect electrical cords and outlets regularly for damage and replace them as needed. Avoid overloading electrical circuits in the break room. Turn off all electrical appliances when not in use. Keep flammable liquids, such as cleaning supplies, stored in a safe and secure location. Implement a policy that prohibits the use of open flames in the break room, such as candles or incense. Ensure that all cooking appliances in the break room are equipped with automatic shut-off devices. Clean cooking appliances regularly to remove grease and food debris. Provide employees with access to a fire safety checklist to help them identify and address potential fire hazards. Conduct regular fire safety inspections of the break room. Document all fire safety inspections and corrective actions taken. Maintain a record of all fire safety training programs and employee participation. Communicate fire safety information to employees regularly through newsletters, emails, or posters. Encourage employees to ask questions about fire safety procedures. Promote a culture of fire safety in the workplace. Make fire safety a priority for all employees. Remember that fire safety is everyone's responsibility. A fire risk assessment involves a systematic evaluation of potential fire hazards, identification of vulnerable areas, and analysis of the potential consequences of a fire. This assessment helps in developing and implementing effective fire prevention and protection measures. The key steps in conducting a fire risk assessment include, firstly, identifying potential fire hazards such as ignition sources, flammable materials, and potential ignition scenarios. Secondly, assessing the risks by evaluating the likelihood of a fire occurring and the potential severity of its consequences, considering factors like occupancy, building construction, and fire protection systems. Thirdly, developing and implementing fire safety measures to mitigate the identified risks, including fire prevention strategies, fire detection and suppression systems, evacuation plans, and employee training. Fourthly, documenting the findings of the fire risk assessment and the implemented fire safety measures. This documentation serves as a record of the assessment process and the basis for future reviews and updates. And fifthly, reviewing and updating the fire risk assessment periodically or whenever there are significant changes in the workplace, such as changes in occupancy, processes, or materials. The fire risk assessment should be conducted by competent individuals with knowledge of fire safety principles, building codes, and industry standards. The involvement of employees in the fire risk assessment process can help to identify potential hazards and improve the effectiveness of fire safety measures. Findings of the fire risk assessment should be communicated to all employees and used to inform fire safety training programs. Fire prevention strategies aim to reduce the likelihood of a fire occurring by eliminating ignition sources, controlling flammable materials, and implementing safe work practices. Common fire prevention strategies include, firstly, controlling ignition sources by implementing measures to prevent electrical fires, such as regular inspection and maintenance of electrical equipment, proper grounding, and avoiding overloading circuits. Secondly, managing flammable materials by storing flammable liquids in approved containers, controlling the accumulation of combustible materials, and implementing proper waste disposal procedures. Thirdly, implementing safe work practices by ensuring that employees follow fire safety procedures, such as turning off equipment when not in use, properly disposing of smoking materials, and avoiding the use of open flames in restricted areas. Fourthly, providing fire safety training to employees to educate them on fire hazards, fire prevention strategies, and emergency procedures. And fifthly, conducting regular fire safety inspections to identify potential hazards and ensure that fire prevention measures are being followed. Fire detection and suppression systems are designed to detect fires early and to suppress them quickly, minimizing damage and protecting lives. Common fire detection and suppression systems include firstly smoke detectors, which detect smoke particles in air and activate an alarm to alert occupants of a fire. Secondly, heat detectors, which detect changes in temperature and activate an alarm when a certain temperature threshold is reached. Thirdly, fire alarms, which provide audible and visual alerts to warn occupants of a fire. Fourthly, fire sprinklers, which automatically discharge water to suppress fires. And fifthly, fire extinguishers, which are portable devices that can be used to extinguish small fires. Regular inspection and maintenance of fire detection and suppression systems are essential to ensure that they are functioning properly. Employees should be trained in the proper use of fire extinguishers. Fire drills should be conducted regularly to familiarize occupants with evacuation procedures. An evacuation plan outlines the procedures for safely evacuating a building in the event of a fire or other emergency. The key elements of an evacuation plan include firstly, evacuation routes, which are clearly marked pathways that lead occupants to a safe area outside the building. Secondly, assembly points, which are designated locations where occupants should gather after evacuating the building. Thirdly, emergency procedures, which outline the steps that occupants should take in the event of a fire, such as activating the fire alarm, notifying emergency services, and assisting individuals with disabilities. Fourthly, responsibilities, which assign specific roles to individuals, such as fire wardens, who are responsible for assisting with the evacuation process. And fifthly, training, which provides occupants with the knowledge and skills necessary to evacuate the building safely. The evacuation plan should be posted in conspicuous locations throughout the building. Fire drills should be conducted regularly to practice the evacuation plan. The evacuation plan should be reviewed and updated periodically to ensure that it remains effective. Fire safety training programs provide employees with the knowledge and skills necessary to prevent fires and to respond effectively in the event of a fire. The key topics covered in fire safety training programs include firstly, fire hazards, which educate employees on the common causes of fires in the workplace. Secondly, fire prevention strategies, which teach employees how to prevent fires by eliminating ignition sources, controlling flammable materials, and following safe work practices. Thirdly, fire detection and suppression systems, which familiarize employees with the different types of fire detection and suppression systems and their proper use. Fourthly, evacuation procedures, which train employees on how to safely evacuate the building in the event of a fire. And fifthly, fire extinguisher training, which teaches employees how to properly use a fire extinguisher to extinguish small fires. Fire safety training programs should be conducted regularly and should be tailored to the specific hazards and risks of the workplace. Employees should be encouraged to ask questions and participate in the training programs. A documented fire safety program provides a framework for managing fire safety risks and ensuring compliance with fire safety regulations. The key elements of a documented fire safety program include firstly, a fire safety policy, which outlines the organization's commitment to fire safety and the responsibilities of all employees. Secondly, a fire risk assessment, which identifies potential fire hazards and assesses the risks. Thirdly, fire prevention strategies, which outline the measures that will be taken to prevent fires. Fourthly, fire detection and suppression systems, which describe the fire detection and suppression systems that are in place. Fifthly, an evacuation plan, which outlines the procedures for safely evacuating the building in the event of a fire. Sixthly, fire safety training programs, which provide employees with the knowledge and skills necessary to prevent fires and to respond effectively in the event of a fire. Seventhly, inspection and maintenance procedures, which outline the procedures for inspecting and maintaining fire safety equipment. Eighthly, record-keeping procedures, which describe the procedures for documenting fire safety activities. And ninthly, review and update procedures, which outline the procedures for reviewing and updating the fire safety program. The documented fire safety program should be readily accessible to all employees. The fire safety program should be reviewed and updated periodically to ensure that it remains effective. Remember, the key is to consult with the local authorities.